Hello to all viewers. Hello to everyone. I am Shiloh, the last scribe for the house of Jacob. I am a messenger and a true servant of the Almighty. November 29th, 2019 is the Almighty's judgment day upon all things on the earth. On that day, the Almighty will reveal himself, and everyone will receive life or death. On that day, he will declare war against all gods, goddesses, godlike ones, and against everything that he considers to be evil. On that day, he will gather his people together, wherever they may be, and they will receive their inheritance. This video is to open your eyes and give you understanding of who the Almighty is and what he is not. This video is titled, Who is the Almighty and What He is Not. In order to correctly interpret the Holy Bible scriptures, you need to use the Strong's Concordance Exhaustive Bible. This book contains the recorded definitions for all the words in the Holy Bible. Now, the word for Almighty is defined in the Strong's Concordance under reference H7706. Strong's reference H7706 is pronounced Shaddai. The Hebrew word Shaddai means Almighty. It means impregnable, and it means most powerful. The word Shaddai has no plural form, only a singular form, so the word Shaddai refers to one specific being. The word God is not in the recorded definition of the Hebrew word Shaddai. The word Lord is not in the recorded definition of the Hebrew word Shaddai. Since the word God and the word Lord are not in the recorded definition of the Hebrew word Shaddai, these two words cannot be used to describe or identify the Almighty. These two words describe and identify a completely different being, not the Almighty. The Hebrew word Shaddai stands on its own. To correctly interpret the Hebrew word Shaddai, you must use only the words of the recorded definition. You do not add to it, and you take nothing away from the recorded definition. With that being said, the Hebrew word Shaddai interprets as follows. The Almighty is the most powerful and is invincible. The Almighty is the only Almighty being. This is the correct interpretation for the Hebrew word Shaddai. By itself, the Hebrew word Shaddai is the correct word to use to describe and identify the Almighty. The Hebrew word Shaddai refers only to the Almighty, and the word Shaddai honors only the Almighty, as the all-supreme being, the all-supreme ruler, the creator of all things. The Almighty is not a God. The word God is defined in the Strong's Concordance reference H410. Strong's reference H410 is pronounced El or Eloach. The Hebrew word for God, El or Eloach, means a God. It means an idol. It means strong. It means power. It means great. It means mighty one. And it means any deity. Nothing in the definition of the word God identifies the Almighty. To correctly interpret the word for God, El or Eloach, Strong's reference H410, you must use the words of the recorded definition. So the word for God, El or Eloach, interprets as follows. A God is a strong idol of great power and is any deity or mighty one. By recorded definition, God is a strong idol of great power and can be any deity or mighty one. Based on the recorded definition, the Hebrew word for God, El or Eloach, cannot be used to describe or identify the Almighty in the Old Testament, because the word God does not truthfully describe or identify the Almighty. The Almighty is not Lord. The word Lord is defined in the Strong's Concordance reference H3068. Strong's reference H3068, the word Lord is pronounced Yehovah. Strong's reference H3068 defines the word Lord as the Jewish national name of God Jehovah. It defines the word Lord as the Lord, the self-existent, and the eternal. To correctly interpret the word Jehovah, you must use all the words of the definition. By definition, the word Lord makes no reference to the Almighty, nor is it a title to honor the Almighty. Correctly interpreted, the word for Lord, Jehovah, interprets as follows. Jehovah, the Lord, is the Jewish national name of God, the self-existent, the eternal. The word Lord belongs to and is a title to honor the Jewish God Jehovah. The word Lord is defined again a second time in the Strong's Concordance under reference H136. Strong's reference H136 is pronounced Adonai. Adonai is also a title used as a substitute for the proper name of the Jewish God of Judaism. Adonai means Lord, God, and it means my Lord. Correctly interpreted, the Hebrew word for Lord, Adonai, interprets as follows. My Lord God. Because Judaism believes the name of their God is too holy to pronounce, well over 1,000 years ago, the word Adonai was created by Jewish scribes to substitute for the name Jehovah and his alias name, Yahweh. Before Judaism's influence, Yahweh was a Canaanite god called Yah. The name Yahweh comes from Jewish scribes who created and used a tetragrammaton to pronounce the holy name of their God. The name Jehovah also comes from this same tetragrammaton. The Greek word tetra is used as a prefix designating the number 4. The Greek word gramma means writings or letters. Thus, the tetragrammaton means 4 letters. YHWH are the 4 letters the Jewish scribes used. They pronounced these 4 letters as Yod, He, Wah, Yod. The term tetragrammaton itself is not a word found anywhere in the Old Testament. The term tetragrammaton itself is not mentioned or explained anywhere in the Old Testament. By definition, the word Lord is a title given to the God Yahweh or the Lord God Jehovah. The words Lord, God, Jehovah, and Yahweh cannot be used to describe or identify the Almighty. The words Lord and God are used to honor the Lord God Jehovah or the God Yahweh. The Almighty, He will remove the name Jehovah from out of His people's mouth. According to King James Bible, Hosea 2:16, it says, And it shall be at that day, said the Almighty, that you will call me Ish, and will call me no more Baal-E. Hosea 2:16, like most of the verses in the Old Testament Bible, have been mistranslated and misinterpreted. Hosea 2:16 should say, And it will be at that day, says the Almighty, that you will call my people Ish, and you will call me no more Baal-E. To get a deeper understanding of what the word Ish means, make sure to see my video titled The Seed of Ish. In Hosea 2:16, the word Baal-E is defined in the Strong's Concordance reference H1180. Strong's reference H1180 means my master and is a symbolic name for Jehovah. Strong's reference H1180 comes from Strong's reference H1167. And Strong's reference H1167 is the same as Strong's reference H1168. Strong's reference H1168 means a Phoenician deity called Baal. According to the definitions, Jehovah, who is Jesus Christ in the flesh, are of this deity. They are confederate with him and represent him the same way Baal-Zebub does. Beelzebub is not the Lord of the Flies. Beelzebub is the Lord of Lies, and is mentioned in 1 Kings 1 and 2, 2 Kings 1 and 6, and 2 Kings 1 and 16. The word Beelzebub is defined in the Strong's Concordance reference H1176, and Strong's reference H1176 also comes from Strong's reference H1168. As for Hosea 2 and 16, once corrected, it says, "And it will be at that day, says the Almighty, that you will call my people Ish, and you will call me Jehovah no more." Hosea 2 and 17, "For I, the Almighty, will take the names of Baal out of her mouth." In Hosea 2 and 17, the word Baal is defined in the Strong's Concordance reference H1168. Strong's reference H1168 is the Phoenician deity Baal. All these names for all these different deities lead back to one specific deity. That deity is called Baal. Make sure you see my video titled Baal, the supreme God of our world, a true master of disguise. It is important to separate and make a difference between God and the Almighty. They are not the same. The Almighty is the true creator of our world and all its fullness. Know who you are giving your hearts to. Know who you are praying to. Know who you are asking for help. Proverbs 18 and 21. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This is the end of my video titled, "Who is the Almighty and What He is Not?" November 29, 2019 is the Almighty's judgment upon all living things. I am Shiloh, the last scribe for the house of Jacob. Watch my videos, follow me, and discover the recorded truth about the Almighty, His power, His glory, His honor, His reputation, His experiences with, and His message to all the individual species of persons on the earth.